बराए खुशनूदी जनाब सैयदा सलामुल अलैहा बुलंद तरीन सलावत।
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين، ثم الصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على خاتم النبيين وسيد المرسلين أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين، لا سيما على الإمام المنتظر، ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه الكريم القرآن الحكيم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان. صلوات. After the first 2 nights of my promise to you, and the third night, which was last night, where we had the workshop arranged by the PS youth group, I now turn back to my promise of my original topic, the title of which was initially spread out to you and circulated to you. But before I start, and lest I forget, I've been requested to request all of you to recite one Surah Al-Fatiha for the marhumin of those who have sponsored today's niyaz. So remember them, remembering our marhumin, and kul marhumin and marhumat, rahimallahu man qara al-Fatiha. Muhammad wa ala Muhammad salawat. It becomes important that before I commence this series now, right up to the time that I will be with you, inshallah, bi'aun wa mashiyatillah, inshallah, is that you have to realize there is a manner of delivery for every occasion. And there's a requirement for every occasion, every munasabat. There's a manner of delivery for the majalis of Mahim Muharram and Ashra Zainabiyah. And there is a way of delivery of majalis for Mahi Ramadan. Our majalis is, it's not a very wahwa majalis. बहुत ही भोंदी majalis होती है. ना नारे लगते हैं, ना सलवात है. वो हमारा तौर आता ही नहीं है, हमें दूसरा तरीका पढ़ना. बस इसी तरह हम पढ़ते हैं. But when it comes to Mahi Ramadan and now these nights, it's exactly what the Quran says, شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن. It is that month in which Quran was revealed. And you've got traditions from the Ma'asumin, إن لكل شيء ربيع. For everything there is a spring. وَرَبِيعُ الْقُرْآنِ شَهْرُ رَمَضَانِ. And the spring for the Quran is the month of Ramadan. So the idea is now, after 3 nights where we've discussed a few things, we will continue with the tafsir of Surah Al-Kahf. And in tafsir of Surah Al-Kahf, we will focus mostly on the incident of Surah Kahf and the Ashab-e-Kahf. primarily because of certain things that I will present before you. 15 days is a very difficult time to forget about the whole surah, but even to focus on the Ashab-e-Kahf, because there's so many mysteries of the world of existence that lie in this incident that I will struggle to complete it. And that is why the title of the discussion is Mysteries of Ghaib from the Surah Al-Kahf. Now, having said that, the slides, we will have some slides so that it becomes easier for you to follow. Because what we will do is we will present every verse and then try to take out the points from each verse. Quran is not that you just read and go. You heard what Amir al-Mu'mineen salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. إن للقرآن بطنا ولبطنه بطن إلى سبعة عبد. Quran has a batin, and that batin has another batin, up to 7 batins. So just reading the Quran and going is going to be very difficult. At the same time, people like you and me cannot reach the 7th batin of the Quran, because that is only for the rasikhuna fil ilm, those who are submerged in knowledge, the Ahlul Bayt. But what we know from them, we will share with each other to take our ma'arif and ma'arifat of the Quran in this month, which is the spring of Quran, forward. As a result of which, the topic, the surah that is taken is Surah Kahf, the surah in English referred to as the cave. But we will still refer to as Kahf because we need to know the Arabic terminologies. We can't always interpolate or translate terminologies into English. There are certain terminologies we need to learn in Arabic. So we will continue with the term Al-Kahf. Al-Kahf in Arabic means cave. This surah is basically comprising of 100. And initially we'll start off very superficially, but you will see the things that you can pull out when you actually reflect and do tadbir in the Quran. As Quran has always been saying, numerous occasions, the Quran says, وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ. We made this Quran simple to read and understand. فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ. Is there anybody who's willing to take up this resolve and start learning about what we have mentioned? See, Quran is good. We recite Surah Yasin, it's good for the marhumin, yes. Surah Mulk is good for the marhumin, yes. Nobody's saying no. But has the Quran originally been revealed for thawab? Has it originally been revealed that you recite Surah Yasin for the thawab? That is a subsidiary. That is a furu'. The asl is Shahru Ramadan alladhi unzala fihi al-Quran hudan lin-nas. It's for the guidance of mankind. And from this we need to see what is the guidance that we can get from the Quran in the incident of Ashab-e-Kahf. And I will tell you as we move forward what mysteries lie in the entire incident of Ashab-e-Kahf. This surah, verse number 110, this surah is surah number 18 in the Quran. Total number of verses is 110. Few khususiyat of the surah is that you've heard numerous times in the Masaib specifically. Specifically, when you listen to the Masaib of Maha Muharram, one of the Masaib is related to after the Muharram, when you start the Ashra Sajjadiyah, the Masaib that you hear then focuses on Kufa and Sham till you go to Ashra Zainabiyah. One of the Masaib, one of the Musibah that you keep hearing is that when they went to the Bazaar of Kufa and the ladies were without hijab, to ek martaba jo hai wo, the severed head of Imam Hussain comes out in recitation of the Quran. Yes? That surah that Imam recited was Surah Kahf. Verse number 9. أحسبت أن أصحاب الكهف والرقيم كانوا من آياتنا عجبا. Do you think the incident of the people of Kahf is a strange incident and we've not done stranger things in our power that we've got? That thing is much more stranger. One of them is a head that is severed from the body is speaking out. Hussain ibn Ali. Specifically selecting Surah Al-Kahf for recitation. So this surah is not an ordinary surah. Remember, when this surah was supposed to be revealed, the Prophet is sitting with the people. The surah comes down. The Prophet is sitting with his companions saying, هَلْ أُنَبِّئُكُمْ هَلْ أُخْبِرُكُمْ. Should I inform you about that surah, which in the eyes of God is so profound and so lofty that, you know how the revelations would come? The revelations would come based on events that would take place. Would take place in the events. So, for example, the Prophet has finished, is heading towards Hajjatul Wada, time for Ghadir. The verse comes, Ya ayyuha Rasul balligh. I have been telling you to make the announcement about the Wilayat of Ali. Ya ayyuha Rasul balligh. Now is the time you make the announcement. فَإِن لَمْ تَفْعَلْ. If you do not do it, فَمَا بَلَّغْتَ رِسَالَتَهُ. We will consider you have not fulfilled the role of Risalat. Because of that, then he says, Ya ayyuha nas, gather together. Holds Ali's hands. Man kuntu mawlaha fahada aliyun mawla. So events that take place on the ground necessitate the revelation of the verse. After Ghadir, what happens? We mentioned once before. After Ghadir, one person comes to the Holy Prophet, Ya Rasulullah, you told us to pray, we prayed. You told us to get rid of these idols, we got rid of these idols. You told us to pray, we prayed. You told us to fast, we fasted. The whole month of Ramadan. I have been told that few days ago in Ghadir, you have nominated your cousin as your successor and the Imam after. Is this correct? It says, yes. It says, Ya Rasulullah, hada minka, is it come from you? Min Allah Ta'ala. From Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. He says that I don't say anything except what God tells me. Ma yantiqu anil hawa in huwa illa wahyun yuha. I don't say anything out of myself. All I say is what God dictates me to say. It says, if that is the case, then God, he turns to God. Riwayat says he turns to God and says, Allahumma, if this word of your prophet is correct, send a stone and kill me. Riwayat says, at that point of time, a stone comes from the sky, hits him on the head, he dies. He dies, Jibreel comes on with the first verse of Surah Al-Ma'arij. Sa'ala sa'ilun bi'adhabin waqi lil kafirin laysa lahu dafi'. The scoffer, the sa'il, the question asks for an adhab, we give him the adhab. And for a kafir, there is nobody to turn away the adhab of Allah, specifically when it comes to the wilayat of Amir al-Mu'mineen. So that verse, that incident takes place, and the verse comes. Refer to Surah Ma'arij. First verse of Surah Ma'arij. Sa'ala sa'ilun bi'adhabin waqi. A questioner comes and asks me for the adhab, I give him the adhab. You don't compare yourself to Ali. Ali is in a different league. So events happen, the verses reveal. The Prophet is sitting with his companions. Should I tell you about a surah that when it was revealed, it's so profound in the eyes of God, it's so lofty in the eyes of God, it is so exalted in the eyes of God, that normally when a surah is revealed, it would be brought from the Lawh al-Mahfuz by Jibreel alone down and revealed to me. But this surah in the eyes of Allah, this surah number 18, Surah Al-Kahf, with 110 verses, so important in the eyes of God that when it was revealed, Allah says, I cannot send this surah with Jibreel alone. I'm going to send an entourage of 70,000 angels who will accompany Jibreel because of the importance of the surah. It says, Ya Rasulullah, anta a'lam minna, you know better than us. Tell us what that surah is. It's Surah Al-Kahf. With 70,000 entourage of angels bringing the surah along with Jibreel. You, Jibreel, cannot take this alone because this surah, in our opinion, is so lofty, it has to have an entourage. Your father, but you're part of the Commonwealth. We were there, we live in the UK. Before the Queen died, we know when she would move around what her entourage would be. We've seen when Meghan got married, what her entourage was like when she got married to Harry. You know what the entourage was when Kate got married? They don't go alone. They had this entire group of girls and ladies escorting them to highlight the importance of this event and that individual. Surah is so important that the Prophet says it didn't come alone. 70,000 angels escorting Jibreel to accord the respect to the Surah Al-Kahf. The one thing about the Surah Al-Kahf, and this is not just touching the surfaces. We've got a few more nights and then we will start going deep to pull out the meanings. And you will see what comes out of this incident. Rabbi tell us one thing that is very specific about this surah, Surah Al-Kahf, is its intricate link with two entities. One is Dajjal. This surah it's got a very intrinsic relationship with Dajjal. Now I don't have to tell Dajjal, everybody knows who Dajjal is, what Dajjal is. We met before whether it's an individual, whether it's a system or X or Y or Z. But one thing is certain, whether it is an individual, whether it is a system, for us to fight the Dajjal becomes impossible. It is impossible. It is not possible for an individual like you and me to fight Dajjal? Riwayat tell us, and you've got these numerous traditions about Surah Kahf. Riwayat says, when somebody were to recite, and look again as I mentioned last time, just taking knowledge is not important. What will give us salvation is getting knowledge and then acting upon it. Riwayat says, if somebody were to recite Surah Al-Kahf on a Friday, two things will be handed over to him. One, Riwayat tells us he will be protected from sins, or his sins will be forgiven from this Friday that he's recited till the next Friday. That means he will be given that sort of immunity that if he was committing 10 sins in a day, it will now be reduced to 2 sins a day. Sins that have been committed will be forgiven for the next week. That is point number 1, again from the Masumin. And second thing, he will be protected from the vagaries and the evils of Dajjal. Dajjal will keep coming. And this is the first personality we're talking about. First entity. Bear with me and we'll take this forward. In the time of the Holy Prophet, during the time of the Holy Prophet, there was an individual by the name of Ibn Sayyad. Now, don't think that instance about Dajjal and all these happenings that are part of the Malahim of the arrival prior to the arrival of Imam Zamana. It's only afterwards. People during the time of the Holy Prophet knew about Dajjal, they knew about his characteristics, they knew what he would do, they knew about the havoc that he would wreak, and they talked about Dajjal. This Ibn Sayyad, living at the time of the Holy Prophet, he at that time became ma'ruf as the Dajjal. Listen to this. Why? Because this man, he started off as a young boy and he began to show some absolutely outlandish characteristics. He would be able to talk things about ghaib. He would be able to prophesize things. Some of them would come right, some of them would not come right. But he became famous because of his prophecies. Kuch sahi hote the, kuch galat hote the. And so people said, he is giving information about the ghaib. This only the Holy Prophet does. And at times, based on the attributes that the Prophet said, these are attributes of Dajjal, they say he's a Dajjal. So they came to the Prophet and says, he's talking this, he's talking that, we feel he's the Dajjal, we're going to kill him. The Prophet turns and says, you know, he's not the Dajjal. This is not the time for Dajjal to come. He will come in Akhir Zaman. But understand this, even if he was the Dajjal, you would never be able to overcome him. Because when Dajjal comes, ordinary people will not be able to overcome him. To get rid of Dajjal and to get rid of him, you will need an Imam, a Masoom or a Masoom representative of God to take over Dajjal. The power that he will exert, the command and the authority that he would wield, ordinary people will never be able to encounter it. It has to be a representative, a Masoom representative of God to take charge of Dajjal. This Dajjal about the surah said, if somebody were to recite the first 10 verses, the first 10 verses of Surah Al-Kahf, Allah will protect him from all the evils and vagaries. Memorizes. One is you recite the whole surah. One is you memorize it. So if you memorize the first 10 ayats of Surah Al-Kahf, when Dajjal comes, he will protect you from the evils of Dajjal. Just as we know, Dua Adila. Have you not heard about Dua Adila? How it will help us out when Adila comes? Do we not know how Talqeen helps us when Munkar and Nakir come and we forget? Similarly over here, Surah Kahf has the ability to protect us from the vagaries of Dajjal. Before we move further, there are few, because it is the word of God, the Quran, there are certain benefits associated with them. 2 or 3 benefits I want to tell you because we are at times too dependent on the materialistic benefits that accrue to us. Failing to realize, as we mentioned 2 nights earlier, there are certain algorithms that God has placed into the world. There are certain things that trigger those algorithms, and the algorithms come out to our benefit. Like we mentioned about Dua Jawshan-e-Kabir. The Jawshan-e-Kabir has numerous things. This one brother asked me, in the Dua Jawshan-e-Kabir, do we have something for toothache? Dua number 76 of Jawshan-e-Kabir is for curing toothache. Somebody is fearful of jinn, Dua number 51 helps out him in overcoming the fear of jinn. Because those du'as trigger certain algorithms which then play an effective role, which only the Nasumeen and those connected with the divine source of knowledge are able to tell us. People like you and me don't know about it. Rabbi tell us, in with regards to Surah Kahf. And these are two, three very important things. You know, 110 verses of Surah Al-Kahf, the last verse. قل إنما أنا بشر مثلكم يوحى إلي أنما إلهكم إله واحد فمن كان يرجو لقاء ربه فليعمل عملا صالحا ولا يشرك بعبادة ربه أحدا. Surah, last ayat of Surah Kahf. See, it becomes sometimes fantabulous to understand. The Bible tells us, you want to get up on a certain time at night. This is that surah. You don't need an alarm in your phone. You don't need an alarm clock. Rabbi tells us this surah, if somebody were to recite and make the niyat, I want to get up at 4 o'clock. Conviction, sincerity, niyat, and this verse is recited, that person will get up at that very time. This has been mujarrab. Ulama have tested it out. It's not just the Ma'sumin who say, oh, hadith is not correct or sahih. The ulama have attested. Last verse of Surah Al-Kahf, if you want to get up at a certain time without an alarm, this surah will wake you up. Why? Reasons. There are muwakkaleen, there are certain angels for every ayat of the Quran. They have a role to play. When this algorithm is triggered, that effect comes and you're woken up. Many times, the flow is not on what you're reciting. The flow is on the person who's reciting. So, for example, you have a master-class carpenter who's a genius. He's an expert in carpentry work. You give him any piece of wood, tell him to make anything, he'll make it. But you place before him a bucket of water and say, now I want you to make a chair from this water. He says, I can't do it. He says, why? But you are such an expert carpenter. He says, I'm expert in a carpenter in work dealing with wood. This water doesn't have the ability to become a chair. Not that I cannot make a chair. Give me pieces of wood and I'll make a chair. Water does not have the ability to become a chair. It's not that I don't have the skills. This water does not have the ability to become a chair. Many times when you have these ayats that tell us something can be done and you try to replicate and do it and it doesn't work, it's not because that is not working. It's because something is wrong with me. How many times we've heard Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim has the Surah Al-Hamd with the Bismillah has the ability, it's so powerful, it has the ability to raise a dead person to life. Recited with conviction, with taharatul batan, with taharatul income, with iman, that alhamd has the ability to bring the dead to life. And this, I'm not saying this. Pick up Shar of Dua Samat of Ayatollah Ali Akbar Nahavandi. In that he's mentioned, he knows individuals from ulama who wanted to test out this attribute of Surah Al-Hamd. They would hold a fly, put it into the water so it drowns. They would put it on the table with wudu, facing the Qibla. They would recite Surah Al-Hamd. Says they have seen this dead fly begin to flutter and fly away. If people can do it, it works. If I cannot do, the problem is with me, not with Surah Al-Hamd. Surah Al-Hamd, the word of God, has its attributes. I'm not able to do it. So many times when you hear these things and if it doesn't work, the Rabbi tell us, first of all, look at the food that goes into your stomach. Is your income halal? Is the food that you consume halal? Also conviction goes. How convicted you are that this is going to work. Haven't you heard about that incident about the student of Murtada Alam al-Huda walking on water? He had that fit, he opens it, Bismillah, begins to fall into the water. What? Only Bismillah. The moment something becomes trivial, its effects also become trivial. So many times when these things are said and you say it doesn't work, don't doubt the surah, don't doubt the Ma'sumin's traditions, doubt whether you are fulfilling all the requirements for those events to take place. Anyway, that's one thing. Secondly, Rabbi tells us this Surah Al-Kahf, again in today's time it's very important. Surah Al-Kahf has a very important role to play in the increase of risk and not falling into debt. Somebody who fears falling into qard, maqrood, Surah Al-Kahf. There is a book, a very nafis book that I was translating some years ago, and this particular incident just stuck into me about Surah Al-Kahf. It's in Persian, Darman the Quran. It said, if somebody, and it's from 6th Imam, so somebody were to write Surah Al-Kahf on a piece of paper and put it into a glass bottle, and the riwayat says, let me read it out to you so that you know that it is, and this is written where? In the book Misbah al-Kaf'ami. Misbah al-Kaf'ami has been a very prominent scholar in the 9th century, 8th and 9th century. His book, he's mentioned, Man ja'alaha fi ina'in zujaj. If somebody puts it into a glass bottle, dayyaqir ras, a bottle in which the neck is very thin, not just a whole bottle like a bottle of jam. No, it's a bottle with a thin neck. What is the reason? Don't ask me. This is what is mentioned from the Imams. Man ja'alaha fi ina'in zujajin dayyaqir ras wa ja'alaha fi manzilihi amina min ad-dayn wal faqr. Somebody were to do this and put it into a bottle and place it into his house. Kaf'ami, I'm giving you references. The book Al-Misbah of Sheikh Al-Kaf'ami. It says if somebody were to put it into a glass bottle with a narrow neck and place it in his house, he will be protected from poverty and debts. It's all about the iman. That little piece of paper for a big dua walks on water. Opens it, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, falls into the water. Jitna iman aur aqeeda hoga, Quran ka utna hi asar hoga. The moment you lose the faith, and that's what I always say, familiarity breeds contempt. When you read something very long and very often, it falls down in your eyes. When it falls down in your eyes, then automatically the effects of those things also reduce. Rabbi also tell us, again we are only scratching the top of it. It says if verses 8 and 9 of the surah is written on a piece of paper and placed under the bed, under the pillow, somebody has got a temperature, the temperature will subside automatically. Ayah number 8 and ayah number 9 of Surah Kahf. Somebody sick, write it down, put it under the pillow. However, over here, I personally prefer one other prescription that has come to us from the Masumin. And that has come to us from Salman-e-Farsi. And narrated to Salman-e-Farsi, dictated to him by none other than Hazrat Zahra salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayha. They're going very slowly. Once we go over through this, then we go into the details. So you heard Surah Al-Kahf, verse number 8, verse number 9 has been given as one of the remedies for curing temperature. Bukhar bhi hota hai na? Put it under the pillow, write it down. But you got another one, which is mujarrab. Because we've tested it out, I've tested it out. And that is that dua that has been imla, that has been dictated by Hazrat Zahra to Salman-e-Farsi by the name of Dua al-Nur. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Bismillah al-Nur. Bismillah al-Nurun ala Nur. Bismillah al-Nur al-Nur. Bismillah Nurun ala Nur. Bismillah alladhi huwa mudabbirul umur. Bismillah alladhi khalaqa an-Nura min Nur. It's a long dua. Salman-e-Farsi says, Bibi said to me, if somebody there was somebody in Salman's house who was having sickness, temperature. He wants to go and meet somebody, the Prophet is not there. Is the Holy Prophet there? He's not there. What is it, Salman? What do you want? I'm having problems. It's temperature, high temperature. He says, I will give you a prescription. He says, what is that? This dua, write it down. Dua al-Nur. He writes it down. He says, Bibi, what happens with this? He says, if you were to recite this on somebody who's got a temperature, the temperature will subside. Salman goes. He does it. Then he says, I distributed to 1,000 people who were suffering with temperature at different points of time. All 1,000 attested this works. This is Salman-e-Farsi, coming from Hazrat Zahra. Dua al-Nur. Go onto the internet, go into tafsir, go into your Mafatil Janan. This Dua al-Nur, very readily available. It's just that we are too much dependent on paracetamol and Panadol. Our life is revolving around these medicines. We feel this medicine has got the power to cure. Allah needs a wasila. At times it's medicines, at times it is du'as. It's how we perceive things. Individuals with good iman, no, with strong iman. Everybody, alhamdulillah, has got iman. But levels of iman differ. Salman on the 10th level of iman. Abu Dhar on the 9th level. Those together still they have a difference. So everybody has got different levels of iman. How much are you able to do it? If you've got 10, then you're able to put your hand into boiling water and stir it, and you acquire the attributes of the Ahlul Bayt. It's about where you reach in terms of conviction. Harun al-Makki, the sixth Imam says, go into the tannoor. Sab jante Harun al-Makki kaaz hai. What happens? He acquires the trait of a Nabi, Hazrat Adam alayhi salam, Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam. Why? Aqidah. This man is a representative of God. Hujjat-e-Khuda hai. Hujjat-e-Khuda ke samne har cheez tabe hoti hai. Agar ye mujhse kaha gaya ki aatish mein jao, wo aatish mujhe nuksan nahi pahuncha sakti kyunki Hujjat-e-Khuda ka amr hai. You get it? That conviction is required. Anyway, coming to the entire surah. This entire surah has got certain characteristics. These I've mentioned some of the benefits. But we want to know about we need to know about the benefits and how it actually guides us. So let me give an overview of the surah and some unique aspects before we go into the actual tafsir. We've not even touched tafsir as yet. Probably the whole tafsir will start halfway tomorrow's lecture. The entire surah has it's made up of 3 major stories. I'm still not missed that point, that the surah 1 is related to Dajjal, 2nd is related to one personality, but I'm just explaining to you. But for that, you need to know this background. This Surah Kahf is made up of 3 main stories. One is the story of the Ashab-e-Kahf, the people of the cave. All of you know. They sleep for so many years. Yeah, they go to sleep, then they get up, and fulan, and which is what we will discuss. And you will see the mysteries of ghaib that God, with His Qudrat al-Itlaq, is able to wield in a very minuscule domain for us to understand, let alone His infinite Qudrat al-Itlaq. So one is the incident of the Ashab-e-Kahf, the people of Kahf. The second story is that incident about Hazrat Musa meeting one of the Abd of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which you know is Hazrat Khidr, the Riwayat tells us. Quran doesn't tell us. But Riwayat tells us that person that Hazrat Musa was asked to meet. In the surah, the incident has been mentioned. That incident, that person was Hazrat Khidr. And again, that came up, you know what? One day something happened, Hazrat Musa answered. एक दिल में ऐसा लगा कि इतना परवरदिगार आलम ने मुझ पर मिन्नत गुज़ार की है कि he's given me so much knowledge. Jibril comes and says, Musa, you have to meet somebody who is going to put you in your place. And बड़े अदब से मजाक में कह रहा हूँ कि गुस्ताखी ना हो नबी की शान में. Says, Musa, Allah has asked you to meet somebody who will show you where you stand. That thought came into your mind, you need to be sorted out. हमारे मकाम साहत मुक़द्दस में इस किस्म की जो है वो खुतूर ज़हनी जो है वो हम मुकाबले बर्दाश्त नहीं है. We will have to show you some place. And then आप सब जानते क्या है, वो हज़रत खज़र से मुलाकात हुई. हज़रत खज़र ने कहा देखिए हम कुछ चीज़ ऐसे, we know of certain things that you don't know. Don't keep asking me. You will see things you will not know the answers, because God has graced me with that knowledge. One thing happens, second thing happens, third thing happens. Proven to Hazrat Musa, you're not the most learned. Ilm is in our hands. We give it to whom we want. You cannot think that you've got everything. The whole incident goes, you know, that's not our discussion at all in this month of Ramadan. But this is the second incident that is there, this story that is there in Surah Kahf. And the third instance is that of Dhul Qarnayn. Again, we don't want to go into Dhul Qarnayn. Was he a Nabi? Was he not a Nabi? There are numerous opinions. We're not worried about that. But we do know that this entire incident of Dhul Qarnayn, when he builds a barrier to enclose a community that were troubling the humans, they turned to him and said, Dhul Qarnayn, can you help us? He says, yes, I will help you. We will build a barrier whereby we will isolate these individuals, this community, so that they don't trouble you. Dhul Qarnayn builds the barriers. The incident is related to Yajuj and Majuj, done and dusted. The third instance. The amazing thing about these 3 instances, one is the people of Kahf, the Ashab-e-Kahf. The second is about the incident of Musa and Hazrat Khidr alayhim as-salam. And the third is the incident of Dhul Qarnayn and the barrier to enclose Yajuj and Majuj. The unique thing about these 3 incidents is that nowhere in the Quran except in Surah Al-Kahf have these instances been mentioned. See, you've got instances of Hazrat Ibrahim, You've got instances of Iblis, of Hadrat Adam alayhi salam, of Musa alayhi salam, of Saleh, of Hud, of XYZ, of XYZ. They have been spattered and scattered in various places of the Quran. Numerous places you will find a mention. Adam ka qissa you will find in numerous places in the Quran. Numerous surahs. But these three surah instances are only found in Surah Al-Kahf. No other place. So it's unique by itself. In these three events, if you have a look, Ashab-e-Kahf, you will see as we move forward, this has got to do with the test of Iman. How much a person is persevering in the faith. And we will explain as we go further. Second, when it comes to Hazrat Musa, it's a test of knowledge. हमारे पास बहुत ज़्यादा इल्म है. Oh, is it? I will make you meet people who have more knowledge than you. Test of ilm. And then when it comes to Dhul-Qarnayn and Yajuj and Majuj, it's a test of authority. Who's able to assert control over the others? All of these things are related to Dajjal. All of these things. When Dajjal comes, one of the first things that he will test you and me is with our Iman. Everybody's heard it. And this فَذَكِّرْ فَإِنْ نَفْعَتِ الذِّكْرَى. This remind people, you know, we're not talking about Dajjal. I'm just giving you highlights. When Dajjal comes, first thing he will test us is with our Iman. And that is what it is said. Apne Iman ko sambhal ke rakho, because when Dajjal comes, your Iman is going to go away. Keep praying that your Iman is safe. So one. Secondly, he will test us with ilm. Riwayat tell us when Dajjal comes, he will start talking about things of ghaib that you will say, wow. This person knows ghaib. He must be one of the representatives of God. And you know in Akhirul Zaman, yeah? At the time of Akhirul Zaman, it is said, one thing that is definitely going to come is pseudo imams. Individuals will gather up and say, I am the representative of God. I am the imam. Pseudo imams. False claimants to imamat. And when somebody comes like this and gives you akhbar of ghaib, then you say, wow. Who can give khabar-e-ghaib except an imam? So this must be an imam. And then that is where the iman goes. The test of iman. And second one, when we're talking about test of ilm, he will give you akhbar-e-ghaib to deviate you. And the third thing Yajuj and Majuj are going to do is authority. By means of the wealth that they have. And you know, at that time there's going to be famine and drought and everything, and there will be no food, and they will bring their own items. We have this. It could be a system. It could be an XYZ system in global setup. We've got this. Attest to our philosophy, and we will save you from all this havoc that is there in the global scenario. It could be a man. It could be a system. Whatever it is going to test us out in authority. Once you go to that authority, you're gone from the authority of Imam. So again, all these instances relating to the trials and imtihan of Dajjal and the deception of Dajjal in the surah, that is why it is said, keep attested to the surah if you want to be protected from Dajjal. But then you also have something that is very important. The second personality that this verses, that the Surah Kahf is related to. And that is whom? That is Imam Zaman Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Farjuhu Sharif. The first instance when he said, this surah is relating to issues relating to Dajjal. Dajjal is directly related to Imam Zaman. Correct? It is Imam Zaman's imamat that these people will come before the Imam comes. A war, a battle takes place, and that's what the Holy Prophet said. If this Ibn Sayyad is Dajjal, you have no power over him. You will not be able to overcome him. He has to be overcome by a Masoom representative of God. That's Imam Zaman. Second thing, the incident of Hazrat Khidr. Hazrat Khidr is directly related to Imam Zaman. Directly related to Imam Zaman. How? Where? Masjid Jamkaran. You know the incident of Masjid Jamkaran? How it was built? Very quickly. Masjid Jamkaran, and unfortunately, there are numerous scholars in UK are casting question mark over the authenticity of Masjid Jamkaran. Masjid Jamkaran has been built upon the orders, a direct instruction of Imam Zaman Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Farjuhu Sharif. In In UK, there are scholars who put in question mark. Today I was in the madrasa. Kids, 20 minutes talk, I just gave them 1 point. I said, look, you will be bombarded, and this is also for you youths. Were you there in the madrasa? You are not. You're big people, yeah? In the madrasa, those kids, take it from me. These questions that come up, these ideologies that come up, you want a solution to get out of it, you don't know who's speaking the truth, take it to the marja of your time. These are tried and tested people. They've met Imam Zaman. I was mentioning Ayatollah Shahabuddin Marashi. Ajagra's over here from Iran. Ayatollah Shahabuddin Marashi. He says, majority of the times I've met Imam Zaman as in Masjid al-Jamkaran. Ayatollah Behjat. Ayatollah Hassan Zada Amali. Ayatollah Khouyi. Ayatollah Burujardi. Imam Rahil, Imam Khomeini. These are tried and tested ulama who've got the ta'idat of Imam Zamana. Anybody who comes new, Tom, Dick and Harry, with opinions that oppose these views, they are not tried and tested. You don't know where they will end up. Is it true? Is it not true? But these people, Ayatollah Burujardi, we know, Sahib-e-Karamat. Sayyid Qadi Tabatabai, we mentioned to you, Sahib-e-Karamat. Allama Tabatabai, Sahib-e-Karamat. Ayatollah Marashi, Ayatollah Behjat. Sayyid Muhammad Raza Gul Paigani, Imam Zamana comes in his namaz janaza. We can go on and on and on. If you have an opinion that comes in contradiction that you have not heard about before, compare it to the maraji of our time. If it doesn't match with the maraji of the time, dump those ideas. These people are tried and tested and have been successful. Those people are trying to be successful. We don't know whether they will be successful. Always the path of Najat is to go with tried and tested stuff, not with something that is trying to be successful. You don't know where they will end up with. About Masjid al-Jamkaran, and we had a retort in the UK. Oh, this Masjid al-Jamkaran is a fab innovation. This man, and it was, the story goes like this, that the man identified for this purpose was Hassan ibn Mutla, Jamkarani. In the year 373, 393, there are two riwayat, either 373 Hijri or 393 Hijri. He's sleeping 17th Tuesday night, Shab-e-Seshambe, Shab of Tuesday, 17th Maha Ramadan. Month of Ramadan. 17 Maha Ramadan, he says, Iftar, I did my namaz, this thing, my ataqibat, wanting to get up for namaz, I go to sleep. Middle of the night, somebody knocks at the door. Very quickly, I don't want to go through the entire history of Masjid al-Jamkaran. Somebody knocks at the door. I open the door, I see a few people saying, he said, yeah, Hassan, answer the call of your Imam, your Imam is calling you. He says, who Imam? He says, Imam Sahib al-Amra. Imam is calling me. He says, yes. He goes. Then he goes, he sees a place where currently Masjid al-Jamkaran. He says, on a bench, Imam is sitting. Next to him is standing an old man with a book in his hands. He sees a person, 30-year-old, luminous. Chehra nurani and a nur tapak rahe. Bawakar, dignified, awe-inspiring. He goes and stands and says, this is the Imam of your time. The Imam tells him, with all the differences, I'm just rushing through. He says, Hassan ibn Mutla, you have been ordained to do our work for us. Our mosque is supposed to be built upon the Mashiach of Allah. Then he gives him instructions. Those instructions are fulfilled. Masjid al-Jamkaran is built. This Masjid al-Jamkaran, where people living in the West have no idea, casting aspersions, that all this happened in the dream. This never took place in reality. This Hassan ibn Mutla, Jamkarani saw in his dreams. It was never true. These are the words of these so-called scholars. I have got proofs of Ayatollah Safi Gul Paigani. I have got proofs of Ayatollah Al-Uzma Makarim Shirazi, Ayatollah Shubair Zanjani, Ayatollah Behjat, whoever wants. I will give you proofs with references on their website. Somebody asked, Ayatollah Behjat, he says, I am surprised why people are doubting what happened with Hassan al-Mutla and thinking that it took place in the dreams. It did not take place in the dreams. It took place in reality. Upon the orders of Imam Zamana, this mosque was built. This is point number one that Ayatollah Bahjat says. Then he says point number two, the number of karamat and the shifa and the mu'jizat that have taken place in Masjid-e-Jamkaran, and the number of meetings of Imam-e-Zamana with normal, ordinary people that are non-masoom that have taken place in Masjid-e-Jamkaran are so much that it crosses as had the tawatur ni guzarad, he says. It crosses even the bounds of tawatur. Tawatur is one hadith that you cannot deny. Hadith al-Ghadir is tawatur. Narrated by so many ravis that you cannot say except that it is a correct and sahih hadith. It says the number of times people have seen the karamat, the shifa, the mu'jizat, and the meetings with Imam-e-Zaman and Masjid al-Jamkaran is beyond the realms of tawatur. This is a arif. He is not saying, but there are instances when he himself was not Imam-e-Zaman in Masjid al-Jamkaran. This is what I'm telling you. When you have these so-called scholars coming and telling you, there is a question mark in this. 80% of the Mafatul Janan are all crap. 70% of Shiaism is all false and fabricated. Masjid al-Jamkaran has no base. Hadith al-Qissa has no sanad. Dua and Nutbah is very retrogressive. It makes a person really compare it with the Marja for times. You've got Makarim Shirazi Ayatullah's website. You've got Ayatollah Shubair Zanjani's website. You've got Ayatollah Sistani's website. Refer to them, then you compare. If it matches, you take it. If it doesn't matter, throw it against the wall. This is the only way you will save yourselves from what is coming across the Atlantic. Work is going on over there to take away all these beliefs. They're hitting at the very core. They're hitting at Ziyarat-e-Ashura. Ziyarat-e-Ashura, they want to say why. What do we say? Anyway, so you understand. Here, how is the second incident of Hazrat Musa and Khidr related to Imam-e-Zamana? Because this Hassan ibn Matla says, when I went and stood before that extremely luminous personality, and he says he looked 30 years old. He looked 30 years old. And behind me, beside him, was standing an old man with a book, as if he was reading out something to this person who's sitting. So the person says, that is your Imam who's sitting. The Imam talks to him. Then he turns to the person next to him and says, who's that old man? He said, that man is Nabi Khidr. This incident of Hazrat Khidr and Musa again related to Imam-e-Zamana, because Hazrat Khidr is now the assistant to the Waliullah Tam. Imam-e-Zamana in today's time is Waliullah Tam, Waliullah al-Mutlaq, the absolute Wali. Khidr may be the Nabi, not his time now. Just as Hussein was an Imam, Al-Hassanu wal-Hussein Imamane Qana al-Qa'ada. Hassan is an Imam, Hussein is Imam, but they're standing over there sitting. But when Imam Hassan is there, Imam Hussein will never give any rulings. He says, you want the Imam of the time is Hassan, go to him. I may be doing shafaat after you for 999 lines in the day of judgment, but that will come after 61st of Muharram, on the 10th of Muharram, 61st of Hijri. Right now, my authority is Hassan. Officially, he is the one. Today, Khidr is the Nabi, but he has to be listening to the orders of that Waliullah Tam, who is Imam-e-Zaman. That is his domain now. So that is again related to Imam-e-Zaman. And the third one that we talked about is Ya'juj and Ma'juj. Zulqarnain being that barrier. That Zulqarnain being the barrier for Ya'juj and Ma'juj. If you listen to the Akhir al-Zaman, the signs of Akhir al-Zaman, you'll say one of the most devious and the most deviant and the most dreadful period for the Shiites in Akhir al-Zaman is the time of Ya'juj and Ma'juj. Till Imam-e-Zamana comes and eliminates this fitna. Again, Ya'juj and Ma'juj related to Imam-e-Zamana. The three main stories that comprise of Surah Al-Kahf is all linked to Imam-e-Zamana. Two personalities, Dajjal and Imam-e-Zamana. How did this entire thing unfurl? Before that, I just want to, 2 minutes and we stop, because the entire thing will take a long time. Always remember one thing. When the Prophet, I'm using a certain word so that it doesn't strike a chord very quickly. The Yahud. Yes? Have you ever wondered, Battle of Ahzab? The Battle of Ahzab, you learned in the madrasa. All the kuffar gathered together, including the Quraysh, including the enemies, including the Yahud, Battle of Ahzab. So we're going to approve this entire fitna, they call us fitna of Islam. When the Prophet first migrated from Mecca to Medina, the first thing what he did was ukhuwat, the bonds of brotherhood. Ali is remaining, anta akhi, fi dunya wal akhirah. You are my brother in this world and the akhirah. Done. What was the second thing that he did? You know that? The second thing that he did was he established covenants of treaties and peace treaties with all the Yahuds. They were very helpful. The Yahud initially were very helpful. What happened all of a sudden that they joined ranks with the Quraysh of Makkah to build up an army of enormous numbers with the intention to get rid of Islam? What happened? You have peace treaties. They were so helpful. They used to come and speak with the Holy Prophet. All of a sudden they became sarsakhtareen dushman ban gaye. You know why? One ayat of Quran. One ayat of Quran. The Jews, the Yahud, right in the olden times. He said, son, Amir al-Mu'minin Nahj al-Balagha says, when you have something in your mind, it will come up in the words of yours. Yahud from the very beginning were very wealthy people. Not just today, not just today. Yahud since times immemorial have been a very commercially successful entities. Very successful. Very, very monetarily very strong. What happened that they suddenly turned from being close friends to the enemies of Islam. One verse of Quran. I will just mention the verse, the details, and why this entire surah was revealed. That verse of Ghadir, because of Ghadir was revealed. That verse about Adab came because of the Adab. This surah came because of a certain reason that was enacted between the Quraysh and the Jews. When that came, Allah sent this verse. What will happen? Why? What that incident was tomorrow. But this one verse changed that entire Yahud from good friends to enemies. Allah has made transaction and business halal. Allah has made riba, interest, haram. One verse, all the Jews up in arms against Islam. No, we cannot tolerate Islam. He came into our region, not a problem. He overtook our region, not a problem. He became a superpower in Medina, not a problem. We will still tolerate. This one verse we cannot accept. Islam is now our most vociferous enemies. Till we do not take them out, we will not rest. The details about this, and then what caused them because of this ayah to gang up with the Quraysh to plan a strategy and a conspiracy that eventually resulted in the revelation of Surah Kahf, inshallah tomorrow. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم غفر الله لنا ولكم والحمد لله رب العالمين.
متوجه زيارة.
السلام عليك يا رسول الله، السلام عليك يا نبي الله، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته، السلام عليك يا علي أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدة النساء العالمين، السلام عليك يا حسن المجتبى، السلام عليك يا حسين الشهيد، السلام عليك يا علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي، السلام عليك صاحب العصر والزمان، الأمان الأمان الأمان، السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن، السلام عليك يا إمام الإنس والجان، أجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله تعالى مخرجك وظهورك، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.